Hello, everyone. Welcome to Worship Media. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell.
Hi guys, how you doing? Um, Thank you for all of you who left your weekend activities to actually come and join us on today's interview. Today, like all my interviews, I say that every time that this one is very special to me. This one is really very, very special to me because I get an opportunity to talk with someone who really, you know, thinks the way we all expect to be thinking in Africa. And this is no longer just the local thing, just like a one country thing, but we're beginning to look into Africa as a whole because I come to understand that the things that are happening in one country in Africa is happening in so many countries of Africa. So you begin to wonder, what is really going on? I think it's high time that we look beyond just our immediate problems, just focus on what is happening in your own country. It's time for us to begin to look at the bigger picture, and let's begin to understand why these things are happening in the whole of Africa, not only like for me. I know what is happening in Nigeria. I'm worried about what is happening in Nigeria. I talk about what is happening in Nigeria, but there's just so many places around the world that things are happening. Today I have a special guest. I call him a very special guest because by the way, if you guys are getting notifications, let me know, because some people are saying they are not getting notifications. But if you're getting notifications, please let me know. Okay, thank you so much. Now we're gonna do housekeeping like we normally do. It's just 3 minutes past 2. We're gonna take 2-3 minutes, just not more than 2-3 minutes, to share this video, to invite people to come, so that the more the merrier. So please go ahead and share the video and invite people. That's what I'm doing right now. If you see, I'm not looking at the camera because I'm sharing it. So go ahead and share this video. Yemi Love, Murphy Mary, Femi Yemi, Gotli Denizad, as Victor Dayo Adedayo, Oluwa Dele Bolutife, Chibozo Anuforo. Hey, my big sister, Prince Julius, the only prince in Toronto, Canada. Thank you so much, sir. Grace Johnson, all of you that are already signed in, thank you so much. Raphael, thank you so much. Murphy, thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's just share the video. That's what I'm doing. Just go ahead and share the video. Today is very, very interesting. We're taking a broader look at what is happening around Africa, not only Nigeria, because what is happening is beginning to, it's affecting people all over the place, So we are looking beyond the shores of Nigeria. Today, my special guest is someone that most of you don't know him, but after today, you will get to know him. You'll be like, really? This kind of people are there? In fact, if you go to you're already in my page right now, the post before, I talked about his biography. We're talking about Dr. Macaulay ONYEKACHI OBASI KALU. That is the name of my special guest today. He is so many things, I don't even know where to begin to quantify him. There's so much, but I know that he is the one that really, really concerns me. Let me read it. He's chairman of the African Union 6th region in Canada. Chairman of the African Union 6th region in Canada. I'm going to let him talk a lot of about many of those things. Let me see. I'm going to bring him in now. Just give us 1 minute. Macaulay. I'm looking for Macaulay. I'm gonna tell him. So Macaulay, send me. Okay, I just sent him a message that would be able to make him join the conversation right now, and I'm gonna bring him in. Today we're gonna try to do this through Facebook because we tried it the other day and it worked. So it looked like we're gonna try Facebook today. All right, you guys keep your fingers crossed. You know those guys, they've been on our case. All right, but notwithstanding, we told them we will continue. We will not be deterred. All right. So guys, but how are you guys doing? I spoke with someone yesterday, actually the person that goes to see Shore, and she said that Shore is in very, very high spirits, and that is very good news. All right, so that's what we're doing. Call it. Yeah, don't forget that the donations are still going on the GoFundMe page that was set up concerning the Omoyele Shore's incarceration. All right. Anyways, Ike Anselm Okereke, how you doing, sir? Thank you so much for coming on. Ruthie Kude, Auntie Ruthie, thank you so much for your huge support. We appreciate you so much. All right, today we're going to be talking about Africa, the African Union we're talking about the African Union in the diaspora, okay? That's what we're going to be focusing today. And our special guest is, I'm going to try to bring him in right now. If everything goes well, he should be joining us any minute from now. Okay, guys, like I told you, keep your fingers crossed. Facebook has not been very, very kind with me, but I am hoping today will be different. I'm beginning to add him as special guest, so hopefully it's gonna come on. All right, so I know you, but I'm sure I'm gonna find out more about you today. But for people who don't know you, a lot of us have read your biography. Your biography is so loaded, I don't even know where to begin to touch it. But let me ask you in very simple terms, like I normally do, who is Dr. Macaulay ONYEKACHI OBASI KALU?
Well, that's just the name as you just mentioned, I don't know. He's just Macaulay. He's blessed to be born in one of the, best countries in the world. And I'm privileged to be born I will normally use this term. I said I'm assembled in I was born in Nigeria in heaven. I was assembled in Nigeria, and then now I'm exported to the rest of the world, just to be of service to humanity. So that's who I am.
Okay. And then tell us a little bit more about yourself, because now we've had the assembled story and the exported story. I really want people to be able to understand who you are. How did you get how did you get to where you are right now? Because that helps us, because whenever I bring people on my show, I like them to be an inspiration. Already, I know that you're an inspiration to so many people, but it's important. Your story is always very important to me, because a lot of people seem to think that people just drop from the sky. But I get to find out that when they hear people's story, it helps them to be able to understand, how things come to be. So how did it happen when you were made in heaven, and then you were assembled in Nigeria? So from assembling you to Nigeria to when you were exported to the rest of the world, just fill us in. What happened? Which factories did you have to go through? Where did they buy the spare parts? Did they did they have to? You know what I mean? Let's hear more of that.
Well, once again, just as the bio reads, I was born in Aba, one of these beautiful industrious states in Nigeria, Aba, Abia State. And I grew up in Umuahia, and where I went to school. And you know, I'm blessed to come from a family that taught me the right values of life. That let me understand that we are all the same. It doesn't matter where you come from. My dad, lived and schooled in the U.S., and he faced a lot of racism in the 60s and 70s, and but he did not change who he is. But at the same time, he was busy connecting a lot of African Americans back to the continent. At those early stages, I did not understand what it was or what it meant until I myself had to travel, and I traveled to Europe, both to study and also to further my education. Um, and then I in Europe, I started hearing people answering African names like Kofi and Nana and all that. And I thought, oh, okay, or even Femi, that I thought, okay, they're from either Nigeria or Ghana or but these are from either Curacao or from the Caribbean or from Jamaica and all that, and they've never been to Africa. And for one reason or the other, my passion has always been that it is possible for people of African descent or Africans to live together, to work together against the stories that we hear about ourselves. I know that a lot of people have different experiences, different stories, but the only way it can change is for us to believe in ourselves, and there is always the right time. And so that has led me to a lot of programs and projects and activities that I've been able to participate in, and the different roles that I played. Well, first of all, by God's grace, I'm a minister of the gospel, and I love the word. I believe that if the world would know God by themselves, or whoever that have that spirit.
Wow. It's frozen. I don't know why these things happen. Like I said, technology will be your friend one day, and another day it will choose to disappear. Just a small hitch. That was a special guest, Dr. Macaulay KALU. just taking us through the background of his life. Yeah, okay. He's back, and he will just continue from where he stopped. We lost you at the point where you were talking about being a minister of the gospel, and that if the whole world knew the word, it would be a different thing. That's where we lost you.
Okay, yeah. So, well, once again, it is because for me, like I said, personally, whatever that happens in life to me is spiritual, and you can't see or change anything or be anything or produce anything without seeing it in the spiritual realm. And so, knowing who God is and God being a spirit, of course, are different. People have different views about that. So it's not about religion here and all that. So, but it's just my own personal testimony that being able to understand who God is, because I went through a journey of searching the truth about God and I found it myself. And that has personally helped me to do what I do today and to get the directions and the guidance as much as possible that I can. Um, does that make me a perfect person? No, not even close. So that you have your belief systems and what guides you it doesn't matter what or where it comes from. It's just those things that for me, I believe that spirituality is one of the biggest anchor of humanity. If any human being loses that spiritual sanity, then there's confusion, and it really would destroy. That's where people get into depression. That's where we have mental issues and all that, because when the spirit of that person is shaking, it affects so many things. And so I believe that if the world will understand what it means to have a spiritual sanity, it will really help us, to be able to achieve all that we want to. And also, for me, once again, it leads me to that part of what love is all about, because for me, the reality of who I am today is understanding. It's been a spiritual journey of understanding that God is love, and the world seeks and talk about love, but you know, for me, if you cannot give what you don't have. And so God being love for me, is the fact that we have the greatest commandment: love your neighbor as yourself, which means that you have to love yourself to be able to love other people. And that's where you hear the talk about I can't do anything without talking about that aspect of love, because it's very easy to get offended. It's very easy to get um, you know to feel the hurt of individuals or people. But I always believe that if you have true love, you will always bounce back. Love is like a shock absorber that gets you back on track. Keep going, still loving the same people that even don't understand why they are connected with you in the first place. And so for me, that's been my journey. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to know. I mean, of course, this is not enough. If you want to know about all about me, it's been a lot of journey ups and down, but we can get onto all that right now. But it's just to simply say that for me, it has been more of a spiritual journey, because I was trying to find. I was born in a Christian home. My grandparents are Christians and ministers of the gospel, Reverend Dr. Jane Wakama, and also my father, Reverend James OBASI, who is late now. My mom's still alive. Is in Atlanta, Georgia. And being ministers of the gospel and being the third generation minister myself, it wasn't because of that, because I drifted away. I didn't want to have anything to do with the church growing up at all. So that's part of my story of people thinking, oh, that has been a smooth ride. No, it's not been a smooth ride. I had to get to a point in my life that I tried other religion. I tried other different faith just to find myself, just to find that truth about who I am. And I want to believe that it's not because somebody is born in a Christian home that should make them a Christian, or you're born in a Muslim family that makes you a Muslim. You should find who you are. You should find an identity for yourself, because it's a personal spiritual journey. It's just like saying that you are, you know, that you sleep in a garage. It doesn't make you a car, no matter how how nice that you look. You
I
cannot
like,
be a
I like, I
Lamborghini. You
like, I
cannot
like
be,
that. I like that analogy. You see,
you know,
obviously, from what you've said so far, it looks like a lot of what happens to you, a lot of what motivates you is your Christian background, right? Did that have any did that contribute to what you're doing with the African community? And I'm going to talk about that very soon. But how did that connect with? I want to know your connection with the African Union. How did your experience, your background, and so many other things that happened around you? How did that? How did you make the connection with the African Union?
So when I was living in Europe, I there were a lot of few things that I was involved in, and one of it was advocating for equality for um, you know what I call the people of African descent. In Europe those days, when they talk about, World Series or World Gymnastic competition, because I'm into sports and, play different sports and, soccer, gymnastic, table tennis, all that stuff. So I was really into sports. But living in Europe, different parts of Europe, I live in Greece and Netherlands, I lived in Germany. Yeah, I just Europe was like home for me. But I realized that um, when they say world competition, and most times you don't see African groups, coming to the so-called world competition. And I felt, that's not fair. And then, when I inquire about why these things are happening, the story I get is that, when they come to these competitions, they don't go back. And, I'm like, okay, that sounds interesting. We know our history, we know the story, we know why all that is happening, but why should, if somebody is qualified to come for a competition, why shouldn't they be given the opportunity to do that? Well, anyway, I decided to take that upon myself to advocate on giving that equal right for African participation. And that led to me leading, when I was living in Greece, then to lead a process of a sports federation for the community. And so I decided to travel to different countries, and be able to make sure that those countries that qualify when there is a competition will be able to attend. And so one of that was being done in 1997, and I traveled to different countries in Africa just to get those who qualified to attend. And then I went to Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, and interestingly, I normally go within 3 days. So I go on Monday, by Wednesday I'm done, put in the process and then move into another country. And then I went to Ethiopia, and I could not see the ambassador or the consul general that was responsible for the visa process. And so that was on a Wednesday. I was supposed to finish on Friday. By Friday, it was not done. And I called a pastor friend of mine who is a Nigerian pastor who was a pastor for Winners Chapel as of then. And I called him and said, "Well, listen, I'm in town, and this was what's going on, and I couldn't finish up." So he said, "Oh, I wanted to preach for me on Sunday." I said, "That's not what I came. I'm telling you my challenges and all that." But one thing led to another. He said, "Oh, why didn't you call the Nigerian ambassador to tell him your challenges?" I'm like, "I live in Europe. I come from Europe. Why do I have to call Nigerian ambassador? What does that have to do with?" He said, "Well, anyway, you're a Nigerian and you are doing a great job for the community. They should know about it. And ambassadors talk to ambassadors. So by telling him your challenges, he will try to call the Greek ambassador and help you to sort that out." Then the normal process is Nigerian ambassador or ambassadors that are in Ethiopia are mostly serving to portfolios. So they serve for the country and they serve for representing the OAU or the African Union. So then it was OAU, Organization of African Unity. So by the time we connected with the ambassador, he happened to be somebody that I know, And one thing led to another. He was so impressed with the work that I was doing, decided to have me meet with the then Secretary General. Then he was called Secretary General of the OAU, and finally it led to the process of giving me a letter that helped to to be sent to Greek embassy to make sure that the group that I was supporting to come for that event happen. And then it led to me being asked to stay for um, heads of state summit that was going on in around that season, July thereabout in 1997. So from there, I got that opportunity to have more of what they call the observer status, where you are allowed to attend the heads of state summit representing the diaspora in Europe. So that led to a lot of activities that happened between my engagement and the OAU. And fast forward to the process of engagement of seeking ways to support the Pan-African movement, which was having a lot of challenges because you have a lot of African Americans that really have the interest to connect with the continent, or a lot of the Caribbean who want to connect to the motherland. And for me, it was an advocacy process of trying to let them understand that we are losing a lot when we are not connected to the global diaspora. And I became part of a research team and data collection, part of the global diaspora project that we were doing with some leaders within the diaspora, from the African Americans, like from the Padu, World Diaspora Union, WADU, with people like Dr. Hahn from California, who also was, and then Barry Beckman from the Netherlands, and so many other leaders, that had been involved in this journey of trying to bring the diaspora together to really be able to be the change that we are looking for. Now, it led to the point that we realized that the diaspora remittances and diaspora contributions collectively was bigger than the continental budget or individual country budget. And that's just measured and measured, or traceable funds,
Yeah.
remittances,
Because
because
a lot of the funds are even going on, and they are not recorded. You can't. There's, in fact,
exactly.
I can assure you that a lot of those funds that go through like middlemen, where you say, okay, I'll give you money, it takes a lot of that undocumented could even account for close to 40% of those remittances. So now you guys started. There's so many things that we're to talk about, the Diaspora African Union, and right now it's beginning to make sense. I see now how you got connected to the African Union, and a testimony of that is when a friend of ours, Deji Akomolafe, I met up with you at one of the summits, and they called me, and I think it was you that called me, and he said, "Hey, guess who is here?" So I mean, awesome work that he came from America, USA. You came from Canada, and so many other things. Now let me zero in on Africa, and before we talk about Africa, let's talk about how do we do this. A lot of people in the diaspora have, because you talked about the diaspora getting involved in what is happening in Africa. In Nigeria, somebody like Omoyele Sowore and people like me too, we've gone back to Nigeria to try to help in solving problems, in being part of the discussion out there. And the response that we have got has been very, very, very unencouraging. As we speak, Omoyele Sowore, no, you need to flip it. Yeah, good. Yeah, as we speak, Omoyele Sowore is in detention, and I don't want to get very political, but the point I'm trying to make is there hope? Should we keep persevering, Or is there something we're doing wrong? Or how can we get this right? Because there is so much skill, there's so much manpower that is deposited in Africans in the diaspora. But when we try to take this home, it's terrible the way it is received, and we get thrown into jail just for trying to come and be part of the solution to the problem back home. So what do you have to say about that? Is there something that we're not doing right, or they're not getting it in Africa? What is going on?
Well, number one, I would say that we cannot give up on the process of change. We just can't give up on the process of change. It's just something that, um, for me, I applaud you, my brother. One would not understand what it means to go back and do what you did, or even with our brother Shawore himself. I really, really applaud you guys for the efforts and all that you've done and you're still doing in getting involved and getting engaged. And we encourage so many other people to do that. um for me personally, like I said, you cannot bring change without being part of a system. So whether we like it or not, politics shapes all of us. And I wish that so many people will understand the value of politics and get involved and get engaged. There are good right ways, there are wrong ways of getting involved. And so these are things that people need to learn and understand, because every country is unique on its own. Okay, there is no blanket process. And so it's something that we cannot give up. We cannot lose hope that change can happen in Nigeria or any other part of Africa. As you know, so many leaders that we have in Africa today are diasporans. Even Ghana, for example, or even so many other countries that I can talk about today. The event that we just finished here in Canada, Honorable Bryce, who is from Congo, Bryce, Bayandissa, who was a diasporan living in France. The same thing, he went back. It was a challenge for him to get involved, but he persevered. But today he's a member of parliament in Congo. And as a matter of fact, he's the member of parliament responsible for the diaspora for Congo. Why? Because not only that he persevered and got involved in the process, but he also understands the challenges of diasporans, so that when diasporans come, they have somebody who understands their language and who is able to help facilitate the process. Because he said things used to take a long time to be done, and diasporans don't have that time. You have some people have two weeks in a year, to take off and come to do something. And so they don't have that waiting time. So when they come, they want to see that within 24 hours, 48 hours, some things are done and they're able to go ahead and do certain things. And so just like part of the remittance thing that I was talking about, people travel with money to go home and visit. So that's even a huge, when they go with 5,000 or more, where they're building their homes, and that's creating jobs or helping to fix road or, boreholes or whatever they are doing. As they do those things, they create jobs. And so diaspora have a lot to contribute. So for me, it's just that, we will continue to persevere and continue to put the pressure that is required until I will use the word, we get the salvation we're looking for. So it's not an easy process, and it's something that we don't need to give up on pursuing. But one of the things that I would say is also is it's actually not a quick fix thing. So, I think it takes a while for somebody to want to really get engaged in the political system in Africa. I think it takes a while by one gradually going back. I would also use example of some individuals that I know that succeeded, like the Honorable Bright that I talked about. It took a while. He didn't just go and bounce himself into the political scene. He started some establishment. He started some things he was doing. He started, getting the people get familiar with him and know that he came. He always say that the word diaspora is a little bit challenging for him because it makes it look as if you're a foreigner, but that's also you're part of the system. Just that you lived abroad and you have best practices that you're bringing back home. That doesn't make you a different person. You are still, you use the same passport. You use the same, even if you're Canadian, but you still use Nigerian passport or African passport, you are still an African. So and so it's something to understand that there are process, there's a journey to take in reaching that goal that we want to. And so it's not a quick fix. It's not easy sometimes, but gradually as you get involved and maybe start to establish a business, whether it's a non-for-profit aspect of it to change the lives of people, whatever that one have to do to get the community, get familiar with them, it helps in that transition process
But
or getting into that leadership process.
let me tell you here, honestly speaking, there might not be time to really discuss about it because I mean I had foot on the ground and I know it's been so many years. I have a foundation. I have a non-profit foundation. We have been back and forth. We got involved in 2012, 2015 in the politics. So they see you, they know you. But well, that's a tough another day. What I would like to know is, or I don't know what I would ask or advise that I want to see the diaspora, organize themselves more because economic power, people respect economic power, people respect money. And we see through your data collection, you've been able to tell us the power that the diaspora commands in terms of remittances back home. I would want to see the African Union harness that power as a way of pressurizing the governments back home because it's just tiring. Look at this. There's protests going on in Conakry, all over Gabon, right? And they're killing people, and everywhere. Sierra Leone is the same. Every part of Africa you touch, something is going on there. And like you said, some of the people are even people from the diaspora, so they understand what democracy is in so many other places. But we have to find a way of putting pressure on our governments back home. You will agree with me that we're not seeing those kind of pressures. Maybe there are diplomatic moves that are going on in the background that we're not seeing. But shouldn't there be more action that we take that will make the African president sit up? I'll tell you, I'll use a very bad example. When some politicians came here and they came to eat yam, and they were they were reminded that you don't come and eat yam. It's not a very good example, but some other politicians have also come here and they've been made to feel uncomfortable, and that sent a signal to them. Like I said, it's not the best example, but don't you think that practical things like that will send a signal back home to them and they will begin to change?
Well, when it comes to politics, it looks different from afar. It looks different. And, these are things that, having been privileged to get closer in a political, a picture in different levels, whether it's from the AU or different individual countries that I've had the privilege to either be an advisor or be consulted on different levels, and do hear the challenges that they go through as politicians. um, it's tough. And why I say that is because when you are a politician and you have policies, you have ideas, you have laws or stuff that you want to implement or things you want to change. Mind you, you're not the only person, right? and the system is not so easy as you're pushing, and you get a pushback as well. And sometimes you want to implement something even in your locality or your constituency, in your state. Sometimes you still get a pushback and all that. And so I believe that so many people who got into politics, or meant well, but they got a shock when they got into the whole process, and so there are so much that are involved in it that time will fail us to really get into right now, to start talking about what politicians deal with and what they see, what happens. And so there's no excuse to it, anyways, but it's just to say that it's not a one-way process. It's not a straightforward process. There are so many things that affect the political picture. And so one needs to really understand that to be able to get to that place of pointing fingers or accusing leaders and all that. And I'll be very honest with you, um, you know, violence is not a way to bring the change, right? And so to either beat up politicians, or insult them or disrespect them, if that person is still in office and still have their term too. So imagine what's going to happen, how they feel, if you now are, you're seeking an opportunity to interface with that person or to engage and all that. They're going to put measures. I use examples of G20 summit, G8, or stuff like that, where people demonstrate and do, and so many things. The question I always ask is, how many of those demonstrations have changed policies? How many of those demonstrations have brought the kind of results that we're looking for? But every time people do the same thing. Why? Because I'm trying to understand that, you see, if you have an opportunity to sit on the table of decision, that's why I wish that people understand what policy means, because policy affects, the governance process. That already, for example, we live in Canada, where we have election is here, which we hope that people will go and vote, because your vote, it's important. It's not by criticizing and talking about it and sitting and not using your vote to make the change you're looking for. But by the same time, you have your constituency, you have your member of parliament, whether provincial or federal. The thing is, how many of us engage them? How many of us go to talk to them? How many of us understand our own rights in that region or constituency that we live in? We don't do all that. But when things happen, we want to demonstrate, we want to talk about it. But guess what? G20, G7 summit, all that summit, I always watch that there are barricades and things that are put to protect the area of those conferences or meetings. And they use whether a helicopter to fly over those people, go to their venue, have their meetings, fly across those demonstrators, and go where they want to go. Okay. And one would say, well, there's a revolution. We have revolution. We can see what happened, whether you can use even China, or you can use even what's happening in Hong Kong, or you can say what happened in Egypt, or all that. Yes, there are exceptional cases where you get revolutions and all that. But the point is, as you were doing that, the challenge is, if you don't have a system in place when you're fighting for a change, you're repeating the same thing that you want to avoid. So the people who are making those demonstrations to get a revolution and get a change, how organized and structured are they? That if there will be an opportunity for the change, are they going to be on the table of decision making, right? In the new governance or government that is about to be formed. You find out that new breed, right? It's like the same kind of leaders that now change their suits and wear a different clothes, whether it's a military that now wears a civilian or whatever it is the same set of people changing their clothes or changing whatever they change, to still sit on the same table and still making the same decision that you are crying about and fighting. But what it would have been if we had structured ourselves, get organized, and sit on, or find a way to find somebody who is already sitting on the table, that we support them. Imagine that somebody from their constituency always comes out with numbers of signatures or numbers of support, that when they're going to do a deputation or make a request or ask for something, that the person is coming on the table on the aspect that I have a great number of support already, right? Nobody's going to play around with that. right? Because you already get yourself organized and structured to be able to do that. So there are so many things to talk about when it comes to the process and the ways. And so you get a revolution, you go to change, and after a few years, you're still crying that nothing changed. Why? Because the different kinds of people are still in the place. I'll give you an example. In Sudan, we have a young lady who was part of the youth that helped in the uprising that happened in Sudan, and she came to the youth conference that we had in April in Addis Ababa, and she was well received, and because as young people they did a lot to bring that kind of change. And she kept talking about the youth involvement and allowing the youth to be, because for me I say that youths, we keep saying that the youths are leaders of tomorrow. I'm like, they're already here. They should be leaders of today and leaders of tomorrow. We should engage them now and not be talking about them for tomorrow. They're already here. And so youths are not the leaders of tomorrow. They are leaders of today and tomorrow, depending on which age bracket that you're looking at. And so, but anyway, and I said to the young girl, I said, you guys were in the forefront. You marched on the street. Yeah, you took risk, and you dealt with the military, and you did with dictatorship and all that stuff. And yes, this happened. But now there are talks going on about forming a new government, whether it's on a temporary basis or leading to election and all that. So how many of your group or how many of the youths are on the table making those decisions? Who is now discussing those process? I said, is there any of your team, your union, your group that is having those conversations? No, there is none, right? So you have different levels of elders who are having those conversations, but you that fought for the change, you're not on the table of discussing how you will get involved in those governance process.
Let me
right?
and
Now we see what is
let me
happening.
come in, Macaulay. Like you said, every country's situation is very unique. Of course, when you were talking, I fall into the category of those guys who hang around the United Nations and do the protests and do the agitations. And I agree with you. There's a problem when you do the agitation and there is no proper plan on the ground, to engage when it is time to engage, to sit down to discuss. But then if you also happen to have a movement and you have a political party and you even have a shadow government, it shows you're prepared to the best of your abilities. If we were in the position of the lady you talked about, like in our own position in Nigeria with the Take It Back movement, the African Action Congress, we already had our shadow government and we're already advising the government, and the government was taking our advice and running with it, but they couldn't manage it. A point in case we talked about even the issue they're having right now, which is their basic salary to pay people in Nigeria. We said we were paying 100,000 when they were paying 18,000. They quickly just jumped and said 30,000 up to today because they didn't have any plan for it. They can't even implement it. When we said 100,000, because like you said, a lot of us are in the diaspora. We work with data. We analyzed it. We spread it around professionals. We provide these solutions. But let's not get into that now. Thank you so much. What I heard clearly from you is that when people are agitating, they should make sure that they have a backup plan with a structure that is ready to go into proper talks when it is time for proper talks. In our case, we are ready for that. I know in so many places, but we don't know it all. We'll continue to take these advices and run with it. Let's go over to African Union proper, because there's this thing that's been running around all over the place, but I know that you should have more information about that. Recently, the AU ambassador to US, right? I want to call her name, but it's Chihomombori Kwayo. Chihomombori Kwayo. She became famous for a lot of videos that she did. And right now it's trending seriously that she's been sacked, and there's so much outrage from a lot of people. And, it sounds very, very funny because I'm not hearing agitation from where I should be hearing agitation, and I'm hearing from other quarters. So there's a mixture. You being close to to African Union, I just wanted to throw a little bit more light on that. Why would AU sack her? Why did African Union sack their ambassador? What did she do?
Well, I can't speak on behalf of the AU because I did not get that permission to do so. I didn't speak with the chairperson, neither did I speak with Ambassador, Akana, based on her position. But I can speak on my own personal life. First of all, I want to say that let's understand well, I was hoping to talk more about our process here, what we do
No,
within the sixth region. But when it comes
I'm
to
getting questions. Sorry, we are live right now, and I'm getting a
yeah,
lot of questions about that. I already got those questions before I actually reached out to you. I'm not asking you to speak
okay,
on behalf
so
of African Union, but like as somebody who is close to African Union, I wanted to throw light on that so we can move on. I want to ask you
okay,
questions about your
so I
problem.
need us to understand something. So first of all, I really applaud and appreciate Ambassador Akana for the amazing work that she has been doing and did in reaching out to the diaspora. So that's really been wonderful. As you could see, she's very outspoken. She's quite engaging, very beautiful, good storyteller about the journey and the history and all that. And so that's really amazing, the wonderful work that she has done over the years. I also want us to understand, how system works. So I just want to give us a little highlight here. So there is what we call we have we have what are called political diplomats, okay, and career diplomats, okay. Now, political diplomats are appointed. Career diplomat go through the ladder, and so you go through all the various stages of a minister to now become maybe a deputy ambassador, and then you can become an ambassador. So it's a process. But political ambassadors or diplomats are always appointed following who is in leadership. Okay, and so sometimes it as you can see, in any country when a new government comes, those ambassadors in most cases based on appointment will be planning to leave because if it's the same government or governance, they will continue. If it's not, they know that they have to leave. Now on this particular issue, Ambassador Rekana was appointed, okay, as a political appointment by the former chairperson of the African Union, who is Madam Zuma, who was the former chairperson of the African Union. That was in 2016, which is wonderful, and of course that within a short period of time, I mean, she was leaving office, because after I think 2017, Madam Zuma left, right? In a political appointment process, it would have been simply said that when the new chairperson comes in, right, the new person would have been appointing the people that he will be working with, right,
Yeah.
based on his role. And he will appoint ambassadors because now it's his own regime. Because you need to understand that when it comes to diplomacy, things has to go according to the rules of the game of a country. Okay, we know what happened to the former ambassador of Canada to China, right? Great. He was held a position as a minister, was appointed as an ambassador to China, and when the ruffle situation between Canada and China was going on, right? He made comments that was not in line with the Canadian stand, on the process, and right there and then, he was relieved of his position as ambassador to China, right? And that's to tell you that when you are politically appointed and you're on a diplomatic level, it goes with whoever is there. But in her case, it wasn't like that. The chairperson of the AU still gave that position, to ask her to continue, as ambassador. So, in the first place, to me, that's an upload for the African Union to say, there's that continuity process. But at the same time, you have this time frame of 2 to 3 years, right, where you serve as an ambassador, okay? And it's either that is renewed, or you would say, thank you for your good work, you're done here. We give another person an opportunity to do that, right? And so we need to understand, like I said, there are people need to, if when we talk about certain things, and I think it's important when we don't have all the facts, right, not to really push certain things, because it's still left with AU if there are a different reason why they are saying we are not renewing your contract. We said, if you read the letter that was sent to her, it said, we're terminating your contract, right? Which means we are not continuing that contract. We are putting a stop to it here, which means you've served your term, right? As an ambassador, as a political ambassador, and we are saying that that is it for here. So I think we need to really understand. And I hear people saying, oh, because of her videos and all that. I'll be very honest with you. I never heard anything or any time that AU had an issue about her videos, which of course is left with her to bring that out, or anybody to bring that out and say, well, here's a letter from AU saying stop making these videos or stop saying those things. And there was no, we live in a world where information's, or it's hard to have a secret anymore about anything, right? And people need to understand the African Union is an institution, it's not a country. And so to think that a country like France will muscle their way to affect a whole institution of 55 member states, right? That you have heads of states that make decisions, for the continent. To think that France will make a call. If you're talking about one country, right, that you said, that president is cahoot with the French president and all that, it would have been easier, for me to say, well, who knows, there is a relationship going on. But you are talking about an institution like African Union making up about 55 member states of heads of states. And you are talking about all the commissions and all the, and then for somebody to think that a country like France, will push for something like that. I haven't been within the African Union corridors. That is really, I'll call it really a disrespect, to the continental leadership.
So what you're saying in clear terms is that, because I'm looking at the letter here, you're trying to say that this is how holders of this post are. This is how their contracts are usually ended. Every time there's somebody in that position, this is how it is. So if they don't terminate the contract, you just continue.
Yeah, if they don't terminate your contract, you continue. It's a political appointment.
Okay, so
right?
they renew. So this October 31st serves the end of a period of her engagement. So that's just what it is.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Okay, all right.
The letter did not say, we have an issue with you.
No.
Wrong
I just wanted to hear from you. And then you're also saying that it had nothing, France didn't have anything to do with it, that it was just, that there's so many other people who talk about France. Anyway, let's leave that. You've given us an insight as not a representative of AU, not speaking on behalf of AU, but as someone who is affiliated to AU. So thank you very much for that. Now, let me go on and ask you to, briefly, we're running out of time here. Explain to us this sixth region that I see in your bio. What's it all about? What does the diaspora stand to gain from it? How can people participate? Is this something that is in every, what are the regions that, explain that sixth region and the people who are under that sixth region and how we can all benefit from it?
Well, in a nutshell, the sixth region of the African continent, Africa, like I said, is made up of 55 member states, as according to the African Union. And then you have the five regions within the continent of Africa, which we call the regional economic community. And so you have the Northern Africa, the Southern Africa, East, West, and Central Africa. So these are the five different regions of Africa. So, for example, for somebody who has a linkage with Nigeria, is within the ECOWAS. ECOWAS is a region within the continent, and so so you have those five regions, and the journey began when the African Union changed from the OAU, the Organization of African Unity, to become the African Union. Following some of the things that I was saying that some of us were doing during consultation process of diaspora engagement, that we were pushing that, you know, we need to be part of the whole process of leadership within the African Union. And the AU leaders decided to adhere to some of our requests. And so when they became the 2002, 2003, when it officially became the African Union, you know, there was a process and a journey to change and amend the Constitution of the African Union according to the Constitution of African Union, Article 3Q, that now gives room for diaspora engagement and opportunity. Now, when you talk about the region, the numbers show that we have millions of people of African descent who are living outside the continent, and a lot of us are more affected through the transatlantic slavery, where you have a lot from the, for example, North America or the South and Central America or the Caribbean, and so you're looking at about average of 250 million and above. You know, some have their different numbers and different figures, but let's not forget that life
diaspora.
In the diaspora. But let's not also forget that life began in Africa. So if we even want to talk about that part of history, you know, it tells you that, you know, one way or the other, we are all Africans. And so, you know, having said that, you have, and so that's why even within the African Union definition, it talks about persons of African origin living outside of the continent, irrespective of their citizenship or place of birth, but also includes people who consider them as friends of Africa. Okay, so even if you don't say so, you are also included in that aspect of diaspora engagement. So far as you're coming from outside and you're engaging the continent, we see you as part of that sixth region engagement. Now, what is the sixth region? The sixth region is simply the diaspora.
Let me try to break down what you're saying is that when you say Africa in the diaspora, you're not just talking about the African who is living in the diaspora. If somebody is like from the US, but they have businesses in Africa, they have things that they're doing in Africa, they're supposed to be part of this region you're talking about.
Yeah, whether or not you have business in Africa, what we're saying is this is the diaspora or the sixth region is a person of African origin that is committed for the social economic development of Africa and its diaspora. So whatever that you are doing that affects the life of people of African descent, whether you are here doing it in diaspora to affect the lives of people of African descent, or you are doing it you know, to connect with the continent as Africa, you are part of the sixth region. And so that was formally launched in 2012 in South Africa. May 25th, 2012 was when the heads of states, when we had the first global diaspora summit, African diaspora summit that was held in South Africa. And so since then, the journey of having the diaspora involve and engage in the governance and leadership process of the continent of Africa, you know, has been an ongoing process. We are in the place of finalizing what we call the legal framework, which means what's the terms of engagement, the rules of engagement of diaspora with the continent. Because if you say a region, now understand that the other regions are member states, so they have their governance structure, they have their countries, right? And now you're talking about a sixth region, which are not a country. So how do you deal with the civil society as opposed to member states or a country or governance, you know? And so there need to be that balanced structure of how do you do that, and that's led to establishing the Economic Social Cultural Commission of the African Union, that also led to establishing the Citizenship and Diaspora Directorate, or Diaspora Organization within the African Union, called CIDO. Now, CIDO is responsible for all the affairs of the diaspora engagement from the African Union perspective. So they are they have the policy mandate to advise and engage the diaspora and bring recommendation on how to move forward in engaging the continent from the civil society perspective. So the diaspora is more of a civil society engagement. And so to lead to the process, the ECOSOC Assembly, before the diaspora was formed, had 150 seats, which is within the 5 regions of the continent of Africa. So there are 150 seats. But since the establishment of the 6th region, it's been reduced to 130. And now we have 20 seats for the diaspora to occupy official position within this ECOSOC Assembly as an entry point for our engagement within the political corridors, or our decision-making process of the diaspora engagement.
I'm coming, Macaulay, because this is really getting interesting. And I'm sure a lot of people who are listening, a lot of people don't like to listen to this, to serious talk like this, but it's okay. We have to deal with it, because that's when you talk about policy, these are the things that actually bring about, very lasting change. I agree. I'm someone who agrees with you. I like to be in the room, holding the meeting where the decisions are being taken, even though you also see me outside agitating, because you could agitate all you want and the people inside the room will come up with decisions that will and they will open the back door and leave while you're still there.
Yeah.
So it's getting very interesting when you see the sixth region. It sounds to me like it will be like ECOWAS. ECOWAS takes care of the West African sub-region.
15 countries.
Yes, the countries in the West African sub-region. So this will be seen as another sub-region made up of countries that are outside Africa. Okay, so and now you're beginning to talk about seats, occupying seats in the African Union when they are having so is that what you're really saying? So people will now come from the West African sub-region and they'll be sitting down for a meeting, and people will come from the diaspora as a 6th region, and they will sit with all these other people, and they will have the opportunity to vote. They will have the opportunity to make their contributions, to challenge decisions, to be part of new policies being made. Is that what we're looking at?
Exactly. That's the process. So, like I said, by the time we finish the legal framework of the process of engagement, where now the seats for the diaspora will be occupied, and then there will be electoral process to identify those diasporans who will occupy those 20 seats. Mind you, this is the 6th region, comprises of all people of African descent around the world. You're talking about North America, South Central America, the Caribbean, Europe, the Oceanic region, and Australia, and the Oceanic region, Asia, the Middle East. So you're talking about all places that you will identify people of African descent. That's the region that we're talking about.
So everywhere else in the world apart from Africa.
Yes. So that represents, the 6th region. So you have different chapters that sounds as a state. So as you have, Canada, we represent one part of, that state, as you have different member states of a region, right? So you have Canada, you have, US, you have, different countries. And as they get themselves structured, just as we have the 6th region process here that is being approved and acknowledged by the African Union as a recognized body that they can work with, and that's how the process moves on with every other chapter that will go through that process of acknowledgement from the African Union. And it gets to that point when the legal framework is finalized, then there will be a voting process that the people of the diaspora will vote their leaders to occupy these diplomatic seats in the African Union within the ECOSOC Assembly. And so it's quite an interesting opportunity of engagement in helping with the governance of the continent of Africa.
Wow, that is very wonderful. And because you said the process is still ongoing, there's a lot of questions I would want to ask, but I will let you guys be done with the process. I'm sure once you come out with the information, we will also help disseminate, because right now people are wondering how you're going to go through the process of electing officials. I mean, squeezing it down to 20 from all these other countries all over the place. I'm assuming the member states like would have to organize themselves and come up with a way of electing someone from their region who will stand for election. You know, those kind of things. It's going to be a huge a huge work already. It's already causing headache just thinking about it. But this is the kind of thing we have expected from long ago, because we're really not organized. The Africans here are not organized, where everybody's minding their own business. Even when you come to the country communities or country associations, they are split up into states, they are split up into tribes, they are split up into they still have their wine drinking associations back home. They have a version of it here. It is so pathetic. So hearing you talk about something, and this will also make the African to earn some respect from the government of the countries that they are residing in.
Yeah, so here, just quickly, I just want to help us understand how valuable this process is. Now, a lot of diasporans. Let me talk a little bit about the diasporans that came from the continent, that are living outside. So let's, because we have, what I call more of the historic diasporans based on the transatlantic slavery that happened, and we have our brothers and sisters from the Caribbean and African Americans, African Canadians, Nova Scotia, and those different places that we have history of for our brothers and sisters that came several years ago. Now, the process is that when you look at the bilateral relationship on diaspora, so many people have challenge in engaging or re-engaging their country because of political reasons or economic situations that one way or the other has even made them to leave, or even educational systems that are not working in their various countries that has led them to seek opportunities outside of their country. And so when you talk about the diaspora, it's always difficult to get a full diaspora engagement. Let's say use Nigeria, for example.
Yeah.
A lot of us have various issues and talking about the country, and whatever that our political views are affects us on how we see our engagement and where and how we do that. But the essence of the sixth region is to go past that aspect on looking at the citizenry, the citizens of those different countries in Africa, whereby we now come as a collective. Now, in diaspora as we are, the challenge that we have that so many of us don't understand is that countries engage politically. So, for example, Canada, where we live here, would love to engage a region. They have deals with European Union that gives them opportunity for economic partnership and trade within a region. Okay, and that's what they are looking for. That's why you saw the NAFTA issue that based on the North American trade agreement thing that we were working on, because the regions are a big issue that everybody want to deal with, right? And you have the CARICOM. So people want to deal with a block, knowing that if I sign agreement with a region, I get the whole pack, right?
Sure.
And so here in Canada, for example, Canada is looking to do business with Africa, not so much about individual countries. Yes, there are little deals that go on, let's say Nigeria or some few countries that they picked up, but that's not a big, bunch, compared to what we have to offer and what the continent, is there to do. And so the world has been waiting for the level of trade engagement, and we just have these, free African Continental Free Trade Agreement that is just been signed, and we're working on the full details that are saying now that the whole continent of Africa, can trade among themselves, within themselves, and is also ready to trade with the rest of the world, which means Canada can sign a trade agreement with Africa as a continent and gain that benefit for a business of 1.2, 1.3 billion people, right? So if we have a product that is to go across the continent, just as China, just as, major other regions that they are looking, that's a big, trade-off, on economic engagement. So we need to understand the value of political and policy engagement and diplomacy in our well-being here. And that's part of what some of us has been working for a long time to get the African Union or a political nation to engage the diaspora without a bias, without any compromise, without any division, without any issues. And so African Union stand in more better grounds in engaging the diaspora as a unit, right? Because we as a collective have our various issues based on different countries that we are connected because of whatever that's going on there. But right now, the opportunity given to us is that as diaspora and as a Canadian, African, even if I have my money and I want to do business in any country in Africa, right? If I don't go to Nigeria, for example, and I go to any other country, having my Canadian passport, I'll be treated as a foreign investor. Okay. And as a foreign investor, like any other person, there is a different level of protection to your investment. Yeah. Okay. And we know that as diasporans, our stake and our interest in the social economic growth of Africa is a passionate one for us. We want to see Africa develop. We want to see the best of Africa as Africans. And so my doing that, that I might not get the opportunity that I'm looking in Nigeria, being the fact that I have my connections in Nigeria, but things are not going the way I want, right? Yeah. But Lesotho might need me, okay, and give me a red carpet, right? For coming in to invest, right? Congo might need me, right? In coming in there to invest. There might be other regions. So we come in as a collective. And being part of the process of that social economic engagement and development is what the continent is looking for. Now, the process where we are right now is that you talk about the divisions, you talk about what's going on within our community as diaspora. And that's because, it was as if we didn't have a parent, okay? Because there was no governance. And so we didn't know where to turn to. We didn't know how to engage with even the federal government of Canada because every individual organization was coming up and saying, look at me, look at how many years I've been around, look at what, but it's about your individual empire. It's about your individual organization. And so somebody would say, well, you're not speaking for me. You don't represent me. You represent your agenda, whatever you're doing. Yeah. But here we are giving an opportunity as a collective, as a diaspora, and the African Union being a political force, a policy institution, and as well as a diplomatic grant, has decided to support the diaspora. When we had the diaspora, first Global Diaspora Summit in South Africa in 2012, it was a segue to engaging the diaspora and saying, hey, you are no more alone. You're not like bastards, like people who don't have parents. We are coming to take the ownership. We apologize for anything that we've done wrong over the years of negligence and neglect. But we are coming to say that we are your parents and we want to do that political engagement with every country where you live to let them know that you are important to us. Because mind you, remember that the remittances and even the support system that diasporans are bringing to the continent surpasses whatever they do as individual countries, right? That's here we are now blessed with African Union. Last year, there was a special agreement that was signed with African Union and the 6th region here in front of the Dean of all the ambassadors in Canada, which was now given and discussed with Global Affairs Canada to say that African Union is endorsing a process and saying that the African Union 6th region that is in Canada represents all people of African descent. So which means that anything that has to do with the well-being and welfare of people of African descent. Here is now the process of engagement. We want to discuss, we want to be on the table, we want to support their growth, we want to support their capacity building, we want to support whatever that will help them. So we have a very good opportunity right now. From what has happened in the past to where we are right now, there is a change process, that the political engagement is here, that African Union is willing to engage the Canadian government for the change.
Can I ask you a question? Now, this all sounds very interesting. It sounds very progressive, very, very exciting. How a lot of people are wondering right now, okay, you're in Canada, I'm in Canada. How would people be part of this? If they want to be part of this, what should they do?
First of all, we have a point of engagement. We have a website where we ask people to go and register, their name or their organization. So you have the au6rc.org, which is the website that is open, for us to get engaged. And also we have a project that is being launched by the African Union to address the economic situation that we have in Africa and in the diaspora. April this year, April 27th, we launched what we call the 1 million by 2021 initiative.
What did you call the website?
au6rc.
au6rc.
Yes, African Union 6th Region Canada, au6rc.org. So if you go there, you will see an opportunity to be able to register, and there will be follow-up. There are phone numbers there. There are other information there. There are a lot of documents on the site to read and get informed and equipped and educated as well. And we go on that engagement. And so what we're doing now is we have a process of creating a consortium of businesses and companies and professionals of African descent for the reasons of, first of all, supporting ourselves here in the diaspora, because we are not doing a lot to support ourselves. We make money and we share it to other communities, but I think it's time that we learn who is where and who is doing what within our community, and be able to make sure that our money circulates within ourselves. It's long that we say it, but it's one thing to make it happen. And here we're given an opportunity to make these things happen, and let's stop talking about them, but let's start somewhere. And so we are given an opportunity from the African Union through the 6th region process to say, hey, as you now get yourself organized, it doesn't matter how many you are, it doesn't matter what you represent, it doesn't matter which organization, we walk through with different commissions. We have a brochure here that we use, that we say the African Union and the diaspora, which you can find online as well. And within that, you have different commissions that we work with. Whether it's global dialogue, international relations, peace and stability is a commission, or whether you have economic cooperation and sustainable development is a commission. You have women and children, you have knowledge and education, you have human resources, science and technology, you have health and disability, you have youth development, you have media and image building. So there are different commissions that you will find within the AU structure, that whatever you're doing.
Can I ask you a question? How about people who are not in Canada? Do they also have this website? People who are in Europe, people who are in US, Asia, do they all have this website?
Canada, yes, is a little bit advanced in the process of getting the structured process. But there are also, we are all getting to that place of every other country getting themselves, which I help as a global facilitator for the 6th region. I travel a lot to help different countries that want to get structured in that process. That's part of my role. And also as a policy civil society advisor on diaspora affairs and engagement. I was elected last year as a policy advisor for the 6th region engagement for the whole of the Americas. And so my role is to help and support the process of facilitation and establishment of the 6th region in various countries. But there are also other organized, structured ADEPT, for example, in Europe. There's an organization called ADEPT in Europe that also have an affiliation with the African Union, that have all major civil society organizations that are engaged with the diaspora and Africa that are also representing the European unit. And we have a Pan-African Network of Australia that is representing a lot of the Australia-Asia region. And so the heads of these three regions that have this strong representation from the African Union are representing the diaspora. So I represent the whole region of the whole of the Americas, including the Caribbean, within the African Union. David represents, the people from the Asia region and Australia. And we have Adept, the leader, from Senegal, the lady there represents the whole of Europe. Within the system. So there is a structure in place that is there to engage the diasporans. And we are also building the support system from the structure we have here that is a little bit more organized in the process of understanding the engagement process in helping whoever that wants to come on board, get engaged, and helping them to know how to go about it. So if anybody have questions, it doesn't matter where in the world, even if they come to our office or contact us for whatever they have, we direct them on how best they can get engaged in the process.
So what you're saying is anybody from any part of the world who is interested in the 6th region, they should get in touch with you directly.
Yeah, they can get through our office and send us an email, info@au6rc.org or .com, and we will follow up with them as much as we can.
Okay, but people cannot be members if they are not really in Canada, because in your website it says to become a member. I don't think if they are not living in Canada, they are qualified to be a member of this particular membership form that is here. It's not for them, right?
Well, like I said, we have people registered from different parts of the world, right? And as I mentioned, even though that we said just Canada, we are more of a, right now, we serve as a secretariat that represents the Americas, including the Caribbean. And so if somebody, yes, we say Canada because we are here in Canada, but it's more of the Americas, that's how it's mostly put. Yes, we kind of have not changed that, but the point is, we can't do it alone. We're just giving a guideline. We are just facilitating the process because other places are not fully engaged yet. So Canada, based on the work that we have done, is helping to facilitate that. And so as we identify people who are interested in helping to make that happen, and that's part of the work that, of course, even Akana was doing her best as an ambassador to engage the diaspora on this aspect of the 6th region and saying, hey, here we are. So she did a lot of work as well, and we have other individuals there, Queen Blessing, so many other people who has been doing a lot of work and seeing what they can do to engage the diaspora in the US and also different areas. We have somebody like Fabian Anthony, who is doing a lot within the Caribbean and also the South and Central America, like Brazil and Colombia and so many other places. So there are individuals who are doing what they can to really engage the diaspora, to get structured and get engaged in the process of what we're doing. So it's an ongoing process. We're not where we want to be, but we're not where we used to be. There's progress, and we're happy with what is happening so far.
All right, thank you so much. It's been a marathon. We've almost spent more than an hour talking, and it's been very insightful. We look forward to hearing more good news from your end. There's been a lot of projects in the past that people started, and some other people came in with other motives and they never saw the light of day. I'm really keeping my fingers crossed and praying for you guys that you get it this time around, because there's so much at stake. Africa needs help. My country, Nigeria, I know for sure needs help. They need to be engaged. They need to be engaged so that they can stop all their political blunders that they are committing, and all the attacks on their citizens, politically motivated arrests and all those things they do. We can begin to engage them based on that. I would like to end our interview, but not without giving you an opportunity to just say one last word to people who really are interested in becoming a member of, anyway, we've already talked about that, but just one last statement before we close.
Well, once again, I want to thank you for the opportunity and the interview, to talk about this whole process and, to say that, I just want our people to know that we are the change that we're looking for. I want each and every one of us, that change, that thing that is making you uncomfortable, because we see things from different angles. And so, your views might not be my views, and the things, the way they are done, the way you feel uncomfortable is not the way. Something that may make me comfortable might make you uncomfortable. And because it's making you uncomfortable, that's your purpose, that's your assignment, that's what you're called to bring change about. So be the change that you're looking for. And also, let's support a growing system. I find it interesting that people will be a part of a process, and because it's not going their way, instead of just quietly walking away, they want to destroy it. That's not a way of a progress. Just put yourself in the shoes of the leaders, the people, the efforts, that if you were working so hard trying to build something, and somebody come in there because they're not having their way, instead of it to just pass on, go do other things. Don't get frustrated or try to destroy something because it does not work the way you want it. So I believe that one of the best things is for us to, if we love ourselves and know that we are each other's mirror, as I'm looking at, I'm looking myself right now, I can see my face. If I don't see that, I might not know what happens. I might eat something and there might be something in my face, in my teeth or something. It takes somebody else to tell me that something is wrong. And if you are honest to yourself, that if I see what is not right in the mirror for myself, that I will fix it. It means that if I see something also that is not looking good in somebody's face, I will tell them about it. I will fix it. And so we need to be honest to ourselves that we are our brother's keeper, and so it doesn't matter how we quarrel and fight. If you go into quarreling and then somebody drops dead, even if you're fighting with somebody and you find out they're dead, you'll be shocked, right? When it comes to that painful place of death, you don't want it. No matter how you hate the person, it will shock you. And so if that will shock you that, I always say, even it might be your enemy and is wounded and the blood drops and you didn't know it's your enemy that passed through, you'll be shocked to know that a blood passed through here, right? It's red. We don't know who owns it, but it paints your feelings that somebody is injured and wounded. And that makes us human. Let's think about ourselves as human first before anything else we do. Let's learn to love ourselves first. And it's natural to love other people. There is no way you'll be able to love a process or love other people if you don't love yourself. You care for yourself. The way that you love yourself is the natural way you're going to love any other person. And so I'm just saying that let's learn to appreciate what is being done already. Let's speak well about the continent. If you cross the continent and things go wrong, also know that it's the same continent you belong to. If you curse your country, the Bible says you bless, don't curse. If you bless it, peradventure, as you continue, those blessings will begin to manifest and we all reap the blessings of that place. So I'm encouraging us that instead of us throwing stones and fighting the process, get engaged, be part of the change, continue to pray, continue to believe, continue to speak well, find the good things. Whatever that is pure, whatever that is lovely, whatever of good report, think on those things. Let's do our best to find ways on engaging what is good. If you look for bad things from people, it's very easy to find. If we want to engage about bad thing happening in Africa or the diaspora, is a lot to talk about. But what about if we begin to talk about the good things? What about we find what is good about our country? What about what is good about our continent? It will shock us and surprise ourselves that we have achieved a lot more than we thought we have done. And if we can continue to build on those good sides, peradventure we will reach the goal and the miles that we want to. Once again, thank you so very much for the opportunity. But I want to encourage everybody, one Africa, one voice, one people. Let's be who God has called us to be. Whether the world like it or not, we will be great. We will lead the world. We started it, we are going to end it. And that's what I want to say, that Africa is the next frontier of change. We are next economic powerhouse. It is not anybody's making. It's not anybody's decision. It is God's making. And when God chooses to place you in a place of greatness, nobody can pull you down. We know it and feel it as people of African descent. There is a movement, there is a shifting, there's something going on in the world today. That Africa is the point place, that everybody is looking to have a pie. But I'm saying that me and you are that point of change that we're looking for to position Africa well and better, that we don't get the mistakes that we've done in the past. Let's not fight ourselves. Let's build together the unity that we need to bring the change that we're looking for. That's the message that I have for all of us. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you very much, my brother. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, guys. Wow, that's been a very long interview, but I'm grateful that he was able to give us that time. I didn't know that there was a sixth region, and those six regions are going to have people to sit on the seat of the African Union when they're having all those conferences. Well, everybody in their own thing. We not the people. We continue to tell it to them when they're doing bad. We will when they curse us and when they fight us and when they do all those bad things, we will always remind those leaders of what they're doing. When it is time to engage, we will engage them. But very, very insightful interview, and I want to thank everybody who stayed through to make comments, to cheer us up. Thank you to all of you, and don't forget that we're still following contributions from the GoFundMe page of the Take It Back movement. If you have not donated any money there, I will encourage you to do so. Let me give you an update as soon as I refresh the screen now. We are at 21,746 out of the $500,000. The good news that I have for you is that now they have a new account. They have an account they have a Nigerian account. I'm gonna post it right now. Let me find it quickly. There is a Nigerian account now that you guys can donate. So if you're in Nigeria and you want to be part of this whole thing that is going on, there's a new account that they came up with. Let me find it and just post it now. So you guys that you requested for this and they've been through the process. It took a little bit of time, but you remember they were trying to make sure that everything was done well, and finally where is this thing now? Every time you start looking for something like this, it will start making guy for you. Okay, here it is. There's a letter that comes with it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna post that letter so you guys can see, and in that letter you can also copy the bank account. Or you know what? Let me put the bank account first of all. Okay, they had to open a new bank account, and that bank account is where you can make direct deposits. You can make direct deposit into this bank account. I'm going to share it very soon, and all of the money will be collated. Remember, I promised you there will be very clear and proper accountability with this process. And if you have any questions, you can ask those that are involved, and they will always provide the answers that you're looking for. Okay, so let me forward it now. So I just posted now the Nigerian bank account. That is where you can that's where you can make your direct contribution. A lot of you asked for this, so now you have that bank account. It's a Zenith bank account. The number is 100. Yeah, thank you. Erica also posted the account, and I think there is more there. You can read and see where those officials who are in charge, they had sent something to appreciate everyone who has been making contribution to this. Oh yeah, it came with a letter. So let me now forward that letter, or Erica will forward the letter to us. So Erica will help us to forward the whole letter. There's a whole letter that they wrote to that effect. I might not be able to forward the whole letter from here, but if Erica can help us, just put that letter up there, because they were thanking everybody who's been making contributions, and just asking that you treat this as the official bank account number from the Take It Back movement. Don't forget too that if you're within Abuja, that we're going to be in court on Monday to listen to the judge hear the application for a review of the bail conditions of Omoyele Sowore. That's what we'll be doing on Monday. So those of you in Abuja, please make sure that if you are able, that you show up in court. Okay, you show up in court on Monday, because we're expected to be in court on Monday. I'm not sure if Sowore is supposed to be there or not, but probably he's supposed to be there, but we'll see what happens. All right. Thank you so much for staying this long, and till we come your way again on Monday, please stay blessed. All right. I love you all. Bye bye.